Good afternoon. My name is Matt Brumbelow, and I'm a research engineer at the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. And as everyone else has said, I just want to thank Marion and Lois for inviting me, and for all of you for turning out just to hear about this issue. What I'm going to talk about today is specifically our research on rear and side truck underride. And as Jason mentioned, the 2016 fatality data was just released by NHTSA 2 weeks ago, and so I've included that in these updated charts. But what we're looking at here is not specifically underride crashes, because has already been mentioned, underride and whether it occurs in a specific crash is not tabulated well across the state. Some states don't record it at all, others record it, but the investigating officer might not be trained on what underride is or looks like. So studies that we have done have suggested that it is vastly undercounted, maybe by a factor of 3 or 4. So instead of just limiting to underride crashes, what these data are showing is all crashes involving one passenger vehicle, so car, SUV, minivan, pickup, and a large truck. And I've broken large trucks down into single unit trucks. So these would be like a delivery truck or another box type truck, and tractor trailers. And this is important because from a regulatory perspective, single unit trucks do not have to have underride guards at all right now. Whereas trailers, semi-trailers, are required to have rear underride guards. So these data show rear and side impacts with regard to the truck or the trailer. And you can see that the rear impact fatalities have been increasing since 2010 up to 2016. There was a decline from 2015 to 2016, which is a promising sign. However, 2016 is still higher than any other year on this chart. So up to about 240, 230 fatalities in 2016 for tractor trailer rear impacts. And then side impacts have been consistently around 300 for the past several years with tractor trailers, and then another 75 or so with single unit trucks. So specifically, our research has tried to go beyond those fatality data and get into specific crash reports and studies, investigations where we can get more data than what's recorded on the accident report. And specifically in 2010, we did a study of about 200 rear impact cases where there was photographic data and other measurements that were taken at the scene. And this is important to, as you can see, no one looking at that picture on the top would say that there was no underride, but there's probably about a 20% chance that that was actually coded on the form, that it was an underride crash. Of those 200, we're talking about all large trucks. When you boil it down to what's really relevant to the fatalities, at the time there were 16 cases that had a semi-trailer with a guard that meets the current NHTSA rule, which went into effect in 1998. Of those 16, 14 involved severe underride. So that's this 88% number. Yes, 16 is a small number to extrapolate from, but it's kind of the best that we have with the current data. And then single unit trucks, there were fewer, lower percentage, but still quite significant, 65%. And again, those trucks are not required to have any underride guards at the moment. Some of them do, and these are not subject to strength requirements if they do have the guards, so we can't say how well it would perform. And based on that real-world study, we in 2011 decided, we can't, there's a big thing that's missing. We can't look at the picture on the top there and know what the impact speed was. If someone survives that crash, they're unlikely to remember much about it. And so what we did, we tried to reconstruct some of the most common scenarios, but just to see at what speed are these guards actually doing what they're made to do. And we chose 35 miles an hour because this is, for passenger cars, they are mandated that wall at 35 miles an hour. So to hit a trailer at 35 miles an hour, unfortunately, can be a very different outcome. So this is a 2007 model. We bought it, it had not been used before. It was the same design that this company was using, I believe, up until 2012 or so. And then there were, in this initial batch, 3 manufacturers that we looked at. Based on those 2 things, so the crash test data that we now had with the real world cases, we petitioned NHTSA to upgrade the regulation in 2011. We did not hear promising things from NHTSA after that petition, and based on those initial tests, we were getting really good feedback from the trailer manufacturers that, many times they, coming to see the crash tests, which they're all invited to come, see those, they had no clue how the device was going to perform in a more real world condition like a crash test. And so they're able to use those results to go back and improve their design. This would be a good time to say the regulation is not a crash test. It's pushing an 8-inch square plate against the bumper at a very slow speed to see how much force it can withstand. So again, they were glad to get these results, and as we saw from that, we thought, it makes sense not to wait around for rulemaking, but to just start testing. And so we took the 8 largest trailer manufacturers in North America, and of those 8, we ran all of them in 3 different conditions, all 35 miles an hour. But the first test centered with the guard, so 100% overlap, and then offset so that 50% of the car is loading the guard, and then 30%. Malcolm showed you the 30%. That's the most extreme case. All but 1 passed that center impact, and I think all but 2 passed the 50%. But then once we moved up to the 30, there was only 1 of the 8 that could pass it. Since then, there's been huge progress. So in the 5 years since we started testing, 6 of the 8 now pass even that most extreme test condition, and the last 2 are scheduled to test later this year, so we're hopeful that they will also do well. But I wanted to show you, this is actually from Robert's company, the Wabash improvements that they made. These are voluntary, nobody's forcing them to do this, but seeing how the vehicle did on the top in the initial design, and then how it did in the bottom on the redesign, these are 30% overlap tests at 35 miles an hour. Clearly, very drastic difference. Left is the old design and right is the new design. And I think this is great. Robert has told me that today he told me this, that they've looked at other offsets and other angles, so they're not just designing to the test. They're trying to go above and beyond and look at the real world problem. But it took a crash test with these comparative data to start getting the ball rolling and getting people looking at improvements. So that's rear. Side underride is a shorter story because there is no regulation at all. But we did a similar study with the cases that have been done where there's documented pictures and measurements. A very similar percentage, 86% of semi-trailers could have benefited from a side guard. The difference here being, since there is no guard, we can't say, how much stronger would the guard have to be, because you're starting from scratch. Some of these are going to be very high-speed crashes, but as you saw, 35 miles an hour looks like, and you wouldn't think it would look that severe. That was pretty much all that happened from our perspective until 2017, when we have now run 2 crash tests with this device called an Angel Wing airflow deflector. They're based in Canada, but they sell products in the US and in Canada. As the first to bring its completely aftermarket solution, but to the market, and it's for sale now. You can buy one to put on your trailer if you want to. And so we ran, again, comparative crash tests. The first one, this is not a side underride guard. This is an aerodynamic fairing. You'll see these on a lot of trailers today. They're designed to save gas, and they do that well, but they do not prevent underride. They're not designed to do that. So this is the test without a guard, and you can see what Malcolm was talking about before. You're bypassing all the front structure of the car, which has been designed, as I said, to hit a rigid wall and protect the occupants inside. But with the angel wing, the structure is there. This is the test with the angel wing. There's still the aerodynamic fairing on the side, but the structure's there. The car can do what it's designed to do and absorb the crash energy. These tests were at 35 miles an hour. We ran another test of the angel wing at 40 miles an hour, and it still survived. It is still allowed a survivable crash for the dummy inside. That is about 30% more energy going up from 35 to 40. My last slide is just a comment on where NHTSA has put themselves with the rulemaking and some of the Institute response to that. So in 2015, they proposed to adopt the Canadian regulation. This is what Jason was referring to earlier. Part of the big issue of why I wouldn't save that many more lives is that 93% at the time, it's probably even higher now, the fleet's already compliant. So they're already either selling trailers in Canada, so they're meeting this requirement, or they've just voluntarily done this. But our response has been to that does not guarantee offset protection. So going above and beyond what Canada has done is the guard wouldn't protect anyone at 36 miles an hour. It'd only protect them up to 35. So these are the kinds of things where I don't think you should have to do a cost benefit in this way, but if you're going to do it, you at least need to get the data correct. And so we don't think that that has happened. Side underride is harder to comment on because they've made one statement that I'm aware of in 1991, just saying it wouldn't be cost effective, but they never published any data to support that. So I can't even tell you what that's based on because it hasn't been released. This is, if you wanted to look up some of the specific things in our petition or the response to the NHTSA rulemaking, you can go to IIHS.org. And then you would go to the large trucks topic page, and there's lots of information there for you. Also, if I didn't get my cards, anyone would like to email me, the address is here at the bottom.